If you enjoy my channel, please give me a like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you so much.
The question we never asked. Imagine you're standing in your kitchen. It's a Tuesday evening, maybe 7:30 p.m. The dishwasher is humming. Somewhere in the living room, your partner is scrolling on their phone. You're chopping vegetables. And in your head, there's this tiny voice. It says, "Are we still going the same way?" You don't say it out loud. Because saying it out loud feels like admitting failure. So you just keep chopping. That was me 3 years ago. Living in a small apartment outside Seattle. Married. 2 kids. And absolutely terrified that the person I loved the most was becoming a stranger. Let me rewind a little. My name is Lynn. I'm Vietnamese. I moved to the United States not because I had a big American dream, but because love dragged me here. And for the first 2 years, everything felt like a movie. We held hands at IKEA. We argued about whether to buy a green couch or a blue one. We learned each other's weird habits. He leaves coffee mugs everywhere. I talk to myself in the bathroom. Cute stuff. But then, reality hit. Not the dramatic kind. No cheating. No screaming fights. Just a quiet, slow drifting. Like 2 boats tied to the same dock, but a gentle current started pulling each one toward a different river. He wanted to build a tech startup. Long nights. Big risks. Endless Zoom calls with people who used words like synergy and pivot. And me? I wanted to write. Slowly. To create stories that made people feel less alone. To breathe. To not be in survival mode every single day. Different dreams. And here's the thing nobody tells you about different dreams. They don't destroy you overnight. They destroy you in the small moments. Like when you're excited about a poem you wrote, and he says that's nice without looking up from his laptop. Or when he's pumped about a funding meeting, and you just feel tired because you've been alone with the kids all day. You start to wonder, can 2 people grow without losing each other? That's the title of this video. And I'm not going to give you a fake happy answer right now. Because the truth is, for a long time, I didn't know. I thought growing together meant wanting the same things. Liking the same movies. Having the same 5-year plan. You know, that Instagram couple stuff where they both wake up at 5 a.m., do yoga, drink green smoothies, and launch a podcast together. Yeah. That was never us. He likes heavy metal. I like lo-fi beats. He thinks reading fiction is a waste of time. I think coding is magic I'll never understand. By every logical measure, we shouldn't work. And yet. Every night, he still reaches for my hand in his sleep. Every morning, I still make his coffee exactly how he likes it, black, no sugar, slightly burned because he says it tastes like determination. Whatever that means. So what's the real problem? The real problem wasn't our different dreams. It was that we stopped being curious about each other's dreams. We stopped asking questions. We started assuming. And assumption is the fastest way to kill a relationship, faster than bad credit or a mother-in-law who visits too often. Let me give you an example. One evening, I tried to tell him about a story I was writing. A small story about an old Vietnamese woman who plants sunflowers in her front yard in Texas. And he nodded. Said cool. Then went back to his screen. I felt invisible. But later that night, I realized I hadn't asked him about his day either. I didn't know his startup was running out of money. I didn't know he was terrified of failing his team. I was too busy feeling sorry for myself to notice he was drowning too. That's when the real question hit me. Not can two people grow together? But can two people still see each other while growing in different directions? Because growing is inevitable. You will change. Your dreams will shift. Even if you marry your high school sweetheart, 10 years later, you're both different humans. The cells in your body replace themselves. Your brain rewires. So expecting to want the same things forever? That's like expecting the weather to never change. It's beautiful, but it's not real. So here we were. Two different people. Two different directions. One tiny apartment. Two loud kids. And a question we never dared to ask out loud. Until one night. A rainy night. The kind where the sky looks like it's crying for you. I sat on the bathroom floor, don't judge, we've all been there, and I let myself feel everything. The loneliness. The confusion. The fear that maybe I had made a mistake. That maybe love wasn't enough. That maybe different dreams meant different lives. And then I did something strange. I took out my phone and recorded a voice memo. Not for him. For myself. I said, "What do you actually want, Lynn? Not what you think you should want. What do you really want?" And the answer surprised me. I didn't want him to give up his startup. I didn't want him to become a writer. I didn't want us to be the same person. I just wanted him to see me. And I wanted to see him. That's it. Not perfect alignment. Not identical goals. Just two people who pause long enough to look at each other and say, "I don't fully understand your world, but I'm glad you're in it." Sounds simple, right? But simple is not easy. Because seeing someone takes energy. It takes putting down your phone. It takes asking stupid questions like, why do you actually like heavy metal, or what scared you today? It takes speaking a shared language, not just English, but the language of attention. And that's where my real journey began. The journey of learning how to grow without losing each other. The journey of using small, daily habits to stay connected. The journey of realizing that different dreams don't have to mean different directions, if you share the same direction of care. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You're here because you want to practice English, right? Slow. Easy. Through a real story. And I promise you, every part of this video is designed for that. But here's the secret, the best English practice isn't from textbooks. It's from emotions. From stories that make you feel something. Because when you feel something, your brain remembers. So let me ask you again, the question that almost broke us. Can two people grow without losing each other? Don't answer yet. Our living room, two worlds. Let me describe my living room to you. Not because it's fancy. It's not. There's a gray couch from Facebook Marketplace that has a mysterious stain no one claims responsibility for. A coffee table covered in crayon drawings, two half-empty water bottles, and a remote control that hasn't worked in 6 months. Standard family chaos. But if you look closely, you'll see something strange. On one corner of the coffee table, there's a laptop covered in startup stickers. Code fast. Break things. Hustle culture. A notebook filled with numbers, graphs, and words like burn rate and angel investor. That's his corner. On the other side, there's a worn-out journal with a pen inside. The pages are messy. Half-written poems, grocery lists, and little sketches of trees. A postcard from a local bookstore. A dried flower someone gave me 2 years ago. That's my corner. 2 worlds. Separated by about 3 feet of cheap wood. And honestly, those 3 feet sometimes felt like an ocean. My husband, let's call him D, because he's shy and would kill me if I used his real name, is a tech guy. The kind of person who sees a problem and immediately thinks, there should be an app for that. He wakes up excited about server architecture. I don't even know what server architecture means. I think it's like building digital houses. He laughs when I say that. Not a mean laugh. A gentle, you're adorable but so wrong laugh. Me? I wake up excited about words. About sentences that sound like music. About finding the perfect way to describe how morning light looks through a rainy window. He doesn't get that either. He once asked me, why don't you just say it's sunny? Why does it need to be a whole thing? See the gap? Now, here's what's interesting. We both speak English. Fluently, even. But we don't always speak the same emotional language. He speaks in data. I speak in feelings. And for a long time, we thought that was the problem. We were wrong. The problem wasn't that we had different languages. The problem was that we stopped trying to translate. Let me give you a real example. Last year, on a random Thursday, D came home from work. His face was doing this thing, not quite happy, not quite sad. Something in between. I asked, how was your day? The most basic English question in existence, right? He said, fine. 1 word. 1 syllable. The classic husband special. Now, my brain immediately translated fine as, I'm upset. Something's wrong. And I don't want to talk to you because you're part of the problem. So I got quiet. Hurt. Started cleaning the kitchen aggressively. You know the move. An hour later, he found me scrubbing a pan that was already clean. And he said, why are you angry? I said, you said fine. He blinked. Because my day was fine? Not great. Not terrible. Just fine. Why is that a crime? And suddenly I realized, he wasn't hiding anything. He literally meant fine. No secret code. No hidden resentment. Just an average Thursday. I had spent 60 minutes building an entire drama in my head based on a word that had no hidden meaning. That's what happens when 2 people speak the same language but forget how to listen. Not to words. To each other. Our living room became a museum of these small misunderstandings. His startup dreams looked like not caring about family to me. My writing looked like wasting time on nonsense to him. Neither was true. But without translation, without curiosity, the story wrote itself. Here's where the English practice part comes in, and I promise it's light, but it's real. When we started to fix things, we didn't hire a therapist. We couldn't afford one. Instead, we created a tiny, almost stupid rule. Every night, we have to ask each other 3 questions. In English. Slow. Simple. No judgment. The 3 questions are: 1. What went well for you today? 2. What was hard? 3. What do you need from me tonight? That's it. No how was your day, because that's too vague. No, are you okay? Because that's too easy to lie to. Just 3 small, specific questions. And here's the magic. They force you to listen. Not to fix. Not to judge. Just to hear. The first week, it was awkward. D would mumble his answers while looking at his phone. I would give one-word answers because I was still angry about the fine incident. But slowly, something shifted. One night, he said, "What was hard?" I felt stupid in a meeting today. Everyone understood the code except me. And I didn't say you're not stupid or just study more. I just said, that sounds really hard. Tell me more. And he did. For the first time in months, he actually talked. Not about startup metrics. About feeling insecure. About being afraid he wasn't smart enough. About missing the early days when we were both just simpler. I almost cried on the couch. Because right there, in our messy living room with the mysterious stain and the crayon drawings, I saw him again. Not the startup guy. Not the husband. Just D. A human who gets scared, just like me. That night, I told him about my writing fear. That I worry no one will ever read my stories. That I feel guilty spending time on something that doesn't make money. That sometimes I wonder if I should just give up and get a real job. He didn't say don't give up or you're talented. He said, that sounds really hard. Tell me more. Same words. Different mouth. And suddenly, the 3 feet between our corners on the coffee table didn't feel so wide anymore. So here's what I want you to notice. We didn't change our dreams. He still loves startups. I still love words. Our living room still has 2 different worlds living on the same piece of cheap wood. But we added something new. A bridge. And that bridge is made of 3 tiny questions, asked every night, in slow, simple English. You don't need perfect grammar to ask, what do you need from me tonight? You don't need a big vocabulary to say that sounds hard. Tell me more. You just need the courage to be curious. Because different dreams don't kill relationships. Silence kills relationships. Assumption kills relationships. Thinking you already know the other person's story, that's the real enemy. My living room still has 2 corners. But now, there's a path between them. Worn into the carpet by 2 people who decided that growing in different directions doesn't mean growing apart. It just means walking side by side, in the same room. The silent dinner routine. Picture this. It's 6:15 p.m. The spaghetti is boiling. The kids are finally in bed after approximately 14 requests for water, 1 stuffed animal emergency, and a negotiation about brushing teeth that would make the UN proud. You're exhausted. Your partner is exhausted. And you both sit down at the dinner table. And then, nothing. Just the sound of forks scraping plates. The refrigerator humming like it's judging you. Maybe a pass the salt. That's it. No, how was your day? No, what are you thinking about? Just 2 people who used to stay up until 2 a.m. talking about nothing, now sitting in silence so loud you could hear a spider yawn. That was us. Every single night. For about 8 months, dinner became a silent movie. And not the romantic kind. The uncomfortable kind. The kind where you're both afraid that if you open your mouth, the wrong thing will come out. So you just chew. I remember one specific Tuesday. Dee made his famous chili, which is actually just canned beans with hot sauce, but he's proud of it. We sat across from each other. I wanted to say something. Anything. But every sentence I started in my head ended with, and that's why I'm sad, or you never listened to me, or are we even okay? None of those felt safe. So I ate my chili. He ate his chili. The microwave clock ticked. 6:22, 6:23. 6:24, at 6:25, he said, "This chili is good." I said, "Yeah." Then more silence until 6:41, when we both got up and washed our dishes separately. Like two ghosts who happened to share a lease. Here's what's crazy. We weren't fighting. We weren't even angry. We were just stuck. Trapped in this weird space where we had so much to say but zero permission to say it. Because somewhere along the way, we had learned that talking about our real feelings might start a fight. And we were too tired to fight. So we chose silence instead. But silence, my friend, is not neutral. Silence is a slow poison. It doesn't kill you today or tomorrow. It kills you in tiny doses. One quiet dinner at a time. You know what I realized later? The problem wasn't that we had different dreams. The problem was that we had forgotten how to share the same small moments. We were so focused on our separate futures that we abandoned our present. And the dinner table, that simple, sacred American ritual, became a war zone of avoidance. Let me give you some science here, because I love science that makes you laugh. Your brain has something called the default mode network. Fancy name, I know. It's basically the part of your brain that activates when you're not doing anything specific. Like when you're eating dinner in silence. And what does it do? It replays past arguments. It imagines future disasters. It creates stories about why your partner didn't ask about your day. In other words, silence doesn't empty your brain. It fills it with the worst possible interpretations. That Tuesday night, while I was chewing my chili in silence, my default mode network was working overtime. It told me, he's not talking because he's bored of you. He's planning his exit. He doesn't love you anymore. None of that was true. He was just tired. And hungry. And also trapped in his own default mode network, which was probably telling him, she's quiet because she's disappointed in you. You're failing as a husband. You should just sleep on the couch. 2 people. 1 table. 2 completely fictional disaster movies playing in their heads. That's what silence does. It hands the microphone to your fears. So how did we break it? Not with a grand romantic gesture. Not with a couples therapy retreat in Hawaii. We can't afford Hawaii. We broke it with something almost stupidly simple. We created a new dinner rule. Here it is. And I want you to steal it if you need it. Ready? No phones at the table. That's not the rule. That's the easy part. The real rule is this: every person has to share one real thing before they're allowed to leave the table. A real thing means, not weather. Not work logistics. Not what's for dinner tomorrow. It means something you actually felt. Something small but true. Examples. I felt lonely today when I was folding laundry. I felt proud of myself for calling my mom. I felt scared about the doctor appointment next week. That's it. One sentence. No fixing. No judging. No advice unless someone asks for it. Just one real thing. The first time we tried it, Dee sat there for a full 2 minutes. I watched him search his brain for anything real. Finally he said, I felt stupid today because I couldn't figure out a simple code problem. And I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to think I'm bad at my job. My heart cracked open. Not because the problem was huge. Because he trusted me with something small and real. And I realized, that's all I ever wanted. Not for him to be perfect. Not for us to have the same dreams. Just for him to let me see the messy, insecure, human part of him. That night, I shared my real thing. I felt invisible today when the kids screamed over me and you didn't notice. He didn't get defensive. He didn't say that's not true. He just said, I'm sorry. Tell me more. 3 words. Tell me more. They cost nothing. But they saved everything. Slowly, dinner changed. The silence didn't disappear overnight. But it shrank. The forks scraping plates became background music to actual conversation. Pass the salt turned into pass the salt, and also I'm nervous about that meeting tomorrow. We learned that the opposite of different dreams isn't identical dreams. The opposite of different dreams is shared attention. The willingness to pause your own life for 3 minutes and look at someone else's. And here's the English practice connection, because I haven't forgotten why you're here. English learners often worry about perfect grammar. About saying the wrong thing. About sounding stupid. Sound familiar? That's exactly what happens at the dinner table too. We don't speak because we're afraid of saying it wrong. But here's the secret, real things don't require perfect English. I feel sad is 3 words. Any beginner can say it. I'm scared is 2 words. Tell me more is 3 words. The goal isn't to impress anyone with your vocabulary. The goal is to connect. And connection only needs simple, honest language. So if you're practicing English at home, start with your dinner table. Say one real thing. Even if your grammar is messy. Even if you pause a lot. Even if you have to say, I don't know how to say this in English first. That sentence alone? That's real. That's connection. Our dinner table isn't silent anymore. It's still messy. The kids still interrupt. Dee still eats too fast. I still talk with my mouth full sometimes. But between the bites, there's something that wasn't there before. A tiny bridge built from one real thing at a time. What growing together really means. Have you ever sat on a bathroom floor in the dark, listening to the rain, absolutely certain your life is falling apart? Let me paint you a picture. It's 11:47 p.m. The kids are asleep. The house is quiet. Outside, Seattle is doing what Seattle does best, pouring rain like the sky forgot to pay its water bill. And I'm sitting on the cold tile floor of our master bathroom. Not on the rug. The rug is for people who have their lives together. I'm on the tile. Because I deserve the cold. I'm not crying dramatically. I'm crying the ugly cry. The one where your nose runs and your shoulders shake and you make sounds you didn't know humans could make. Why? Because earlier that night, Dee had said something. Not mean. Not cruel. Just honest. And that honesty cracked me open. We had been trying. Really trying. The dinner questions. The real thing rule. The fear sharing before bed. It was working. Slowly. Like physical therapy for a broken leg. Painful but promising. But then, that night, he said, "Lynn, I love you. But I don't think I can give up my startup dream. And I'm scared that you'll always resent me for it." I heard, "I love my dream more than I love you." That's not what he said. But that's what my tired, scared, 2 a.m. brain heard. And instead of talking about it, I smiled, said I understand, and then locked myself in the bathroom to fall apart. Classic move, right? Smile and crumble. We're so good at that. So there I was. On the tile. Rain pounding the window. And for the first time in years, I let myself ask the question I had been avoiding. What if we never want the same thing? What if growing together is a lie? Because isn't that what every relationship book, every rom-com, every song on the radio tells us? That love means wanting the same future. That growing together means your dreams eventually merge into one. That if you're heading in different directions, you're doing it wrong. I believed that. For years. I believed that if Dee and I didn't end up wanting the same life, we had failed. So I sat there, on that cold floor, grieving a future that never existed. Grieving the fantasy of us both waking up at 5 a.m. to write our joint memoir and then go for a jog. We don't jog. We hate jogging. But in the fantasy, we love it. And then, I swear this happened, the rain changed. It got softer. Not quieter, but softer. Like the sky was telling me to calm down. And in that softer rain, a different thought crept in. Quiet. Almost annoying. What if growing together doesn't mean growing in the same direction? I sat up. My back hurt. My face was puffy. I looked like a sad raccoon. But my brain was suddenly awake. I thought about trees. Stay with me. In a forest, trees grow next to each other. Their roots tangle underground. Their branches reach for the sky at different heights. Some lean toward the sun. Some grow straight up. They're not all identical. But they're in the same forest. They share the same soil, the same rain, the same air. They grow together without growing the same. Why can't humans do that? Why do we think love means turning into the same person? That's not love. That's a cult. I grabbed my phone, because I'm the kind of person who takes notes on the bathroom floor at midnight, and I typed this. Growing together equals sharing the same direction of care, not the same destination. Then I stared at it. Blinked. Read it again. And something clicked. The problem wasn't that Dee wanted a startup and I wanted to write stories. The problem was that we had stopped caring about each other's journey. We were so focused on our own destinations that we forgot to ask, "How's your road? Do you need water? Is that a flat tire?" Growing together isn't about ending up in the same place. It's about being present for each other's different paths. It's about saying, "I have no idea why you love coding, but I love that you love it. And I'll bring you snacks while you do it." That's it. That's the whole secret. And it took me a rainy bathroom floor and a near breakdown to figure it out. I came out of the bathroom around 12:30 a.m. Dee was still awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. He looked up when I opened the door. His face was worried. He said, "Are you okay?" I said, "No. But I will be. Can I tell you something weird?" He nodded. I sat next to him. Our shoulders touched. And I said, "I don't need you to give up your dream. I never did." I just need you to see me while you're chasing it. And I need to see you while I'm chasing mine. Can we try that? Not same destination. Same attention. He was quiet for a long time. Then he laughed. Not a mean laugh. A relieved laugh. Like someone who had been holding his breath for months and finally exhaled. He said, "You know I have no idea what you're writing about half the time, right?" I said, "And I have no idea what agile sprint planning means." It sounds like an exercise class for runners who can't commit. We both laughed. And in that laugh, something shifted. The pressure to be the same person, it evaporated. We didn't have to merge. We just had to share the same living room. The same dinner table. The same willingness to say tell me more even when we didn't fully understand. That was 4 years ago. Today, Dee's startup is still alive. Barely. Some months it thrives. Some months he cries into his laptop. And my writing? I'm here. Making videos. Telling stories. Not famous. Not rich. But doing the thing. Our dreams didn't merge. They're still different. He still loves heavy metal. I still love lo-fi. He still thinks fiction is weird. I still think coding is magic. But every night, before we sleep, we ask each other 3 questions. Not about our goals. About our hearts. What was hard today? What was good? What do you need from me tomorrow? And those 3 questions, asked in slow, sometimes broken English, are the roots that tangle underground. They're why we're still in the same forest. So if you're sitting on your own bathroom floor tonight, wondering if different dreams mean different lives, let me save you some time. They don't. What kills love isn't different directions. It's the belief that different directions mean failure. Stop believing that. Start asking small questions. Start being curious about a path you'll never walk yourself. That's growing together. Not the same tree. The same forest. The small American habit that saved. Okay, real talk. Before we got our act together, I used to think that checking in on your partner was something only therapists and annoyingly happy couples on Instagram did. You know the type. Matching pajamas. A chalkboard sign that says grateful. I was not that person. I was the person who ate cold pizza over the sink and considered that self-care. So when someone first suggested that Dee and I should emotionally check in every night, I rolled my eyes so hard I almost sprained them. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom in your marriage. You get desperate. And desperate people try stupid things. So one night, after the bathroom floor incident, I said to Dee, I read about this dumb American habit. Apparently, couples who ask each other specific feeling questions every day stay together longer. Want to try it for 1 week? He looked at me like I had suggested we start raising llamas in the backyard. But he said yes. Because he was also desperate. The habit is embarrassingly simple. Every night, right before we turn off the lights, we ask each other 3 questions. Not the how was your day nonsense. Specific questions. Real ones. Here they are. 1. What's one emotion you felt today that you didn't expect? 2. On a scale of 1 to 10, how connected did you feel to me today? 3. What's one small thing I can do for you tomorrow? That's it. 3 questions. Takes about 5 minutes. Sometimes less if we're both exhausted. Sometimes more if one of us needs to talk longer. The first time we tried it, it was painfully awkward. D went first. Question 1. What's one emotion you felt today that you didn't expect? He stared at the ceiling for a solid 30 seconds. I watched his face cycle through confusion, embarrassment, and then something softer. He said, I felt proud. When you laughed at my stupid joke this morning. I didn't expect to feel proud about that. But I did. My heart did this weird squeeze thing. Because he never said stuff like that. Ever. Then my turn. Same question. I said, I felt jealous. When your coworker called you and you sounded happier talking to her than you've sounded with me all week. I didn't expect to feel jealous. I thought I was over that. D didn't get defensive. He didn't say, she's just a coworker. He just said, thank you for telling me. That's a 6 out of 10 on the pain scale for me to hear, but I'm glad you said it. We moved to question 2. Connection scale. He gave a 6. I gave a 4. We didn't argue. We just said, okay, let's work on that. Question 3. One small thing for tomorrow. He said, can you make coffee in the morning? Not because you have to. Because I like how you make it. It tastes less like caffeine and more like love. I almost cried. Instead, I said, can you text me something random during the day? A meme. A weird fact. Anything. Just so I know you thought of me. He nodded. We turned off the lights. And I lay there in the dark, thinking, this is so stupid. Why does this work? But it did work. Within a week, our connection score went from 4 to 6. Within a month, it was usually an 8. Some days it still drops to a 3, bad days happen. But the difference is, now we know. We don't pretend. We say, today was a 3, and then we talk about why. And just saying it out loud makes it better. Here's the science behind this stupidly simple habit. And I promise I'll keep it fun. Your brain has something called the anterior cingulate cortex. Fancy name, I know. It's the part that detects emotional disconnection, like a smoke alarm for loneliness. When you feel distant from your partner, this part of your brain lights up. And it makes you feel anxious, irritable, or sad. You don't know why. You just feel bad. But here's the trick. When you name the disconnection, when you say, I felt disconnected today, or our connection was a 4, the smoke alarm stops screaming. Because your brain goes, oh, we're acknowledging it? Okay, then we don't need to panic anymore. That's it. That's the whole magic. Naming the thing shrinks the thing. And the best part? You don't need perfect English to do this. D's first language isn't English either. He grew up speaking Spanish at home. Sometimes he stumbles on words. Sometimes he says I felt, how you say, the sad that is not big but not small. And I understand him perfectly. Because the feeling is clear, even when the grammar isn't. That's the secret I want you to steal. Not just for your relationship. For your English practice. You don't need advanced vocabulary to connect with someone. You need 3 things, curiosity, honesty, and about 5 minutes. So if you're watching this because you want to improve your English, listen. Stop memorizing word lists. Stop worrying about past perfect tense. Start asking someone what emotion did you feel today? And try to answer it yourself. Even if you say it slowly. Even if you make mistakes. That's real English. That's English that matters. After a few months of this habit, something unexpected happened. Our kids noticed. One night, our daughter, she was 5 then, asked us, "Why do you talk about feelings every night? My friends' parents don't do that." Dee said, "Because we don't want to be strangers." She thought about it. Then she said, "Can I do it too?" So now, our family check-in includes the kids. We go around the dinner table. Each person shares one feeling. My son, who's 3, once said, "I felt angry because the banana broke." Valid. We honored that. That's the American habit that saved us. Not therapy. Not a retreat. Not a grand romantic gesture. Just 5 minutes of stupid, awkward, beautiful questions every single night. And here's the thing I've learned, big changes don't come from big moments. They come from small habits that you do when you're tired, when you don't feel like it, when you'd rather scroll on your phone. So tonight, try it. Ask your partner, or a friend, or even yourself, those 3 questions. Use whatever English you have. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Because connection doesn't require fluency. It requires presence. And presence is free. Our kids, our bridge. You want to know something ironic? The thing that almost broke us is also the thing that saved us. And that thing is tiny, loud, and never lets us finish a sentence. Our kids. 2 of them. A daughter, Mia, who is 7 going on 17. And a son, Leo, who is 4 and believes he is a dinosaur. Specifically a T-Rex. He roars at strangers in the grocery store. We've stopped apologizing. Before I had kids, I thought they would make marriage harder. And I was right. They steal your sleep, your money, your sanity. They turn a romantic dinner into a negotiation about whether broccoli is secretly poison. They make you so tired that by 9 p.m., you don't have energy for a deep conversation. You have energy for scrolling Instagram and falling asleep with your phone on your face. But here's what I didn't expect. Kids are also the most honest mirrors you will ever own. They don't pretend. They don't hide. And they definitely don't let you hide. The moment everything started to shift, I mean really shift, was one random Tuesday. Not a special day. Mia had just learned to read. Not fluently. The kind of reading where she sounds out every letter like it personally offended her. Cat. Slow. Painful. Adorable. She was sitting on the floor with a picture book. Dee was on his laptop. I was folding laundry. Normal chaos. Then Mia looked up and said, "Why don't you and Daddy laugh anymore?" The room went silent. Even the laundry stopped folding itself. I looked at Dee. Dee looked at me. We both opened our mouths. Nothing came out. Mia didn't wait for an answer. She went back to her book. Cat. Like she had just asked about the weather. But that question sat in the room like a bomb. Why don't we laugh anymore? When did we stop? We used to laugh at everything. Bad cooking. Flat tires. The time Dee accidentally called his boss mom. Now we laughed at nothing. We had forgotten how. That night, after the kids were asleep, I brought it up. Did you hear what Mia said? Dee nodded. He looked sad. Not the dramatic sad. The quiet kind. He said, she's not wrong. We didn't solve anything that night. But the question planted a seed. And seeds are annoying because they grow whether you water them or not. A few days later, another moment. Leo, the T-Rex, was having a meltdown because his banana broke. Not the whole banana. Just a crack in the peel. To him, this was a tragedy on the scale of a natural disaster. He was screaming. Tears. Full body flop on the floor. I was about to lose my mind. Dee walked over, picked up the banana, and said in a very serious voice, "Sir, this banana is fine. I am a banana doctor. I prescribe more eating." Leo stopped crying. Stared at his dad. Then laughed. The belly laugh that only toddlers have. And I laughed too. Not because the joke was funny, it wasn't. Because Dee looked ridiculous. And happy. And I hadn't seen that version of him in months. Right there, in the middle of the banana crisis, I saw the person I married. Not the stressed startup guy. The goofball who once wore a Halloween costume to a job interview because he forgot what day it was. And I thought, he's still in there. I just stopped looking. Kids don't let you stop looking. They force you to be present. Because if you're not present, they will climb on your head and scream until you are. Slowly, Mia and Leo became our bridge. Not because we planned it. Because they demanded it. One evening, we were doing our checking questions. Mia asked to join. So we let her. She said her feeling was frustrated because Leo took my purple marker. Valid. Then she turned to Dee and asked, "Daddy, why are you always on your computer?" Dee froze. He looked at me. I looked at the floor. This was not a question either of us was ready for. He took a breath. Then he said something real. To a 7-year-old. Because I'm scared, sweetie. I'm scared that if I don't work hard, I won't be able to buy you food or markers or dinosaur toys. Mia thought about it. Then she said, "But we have food. And you're sad." I don't want a sad daddy. Dee's face crumbled. In a good way. He pulled her into a hug and said, "You're right. I'll try to be less sad." That conversation changed him. Not overnight. But something shifted. He started closing his laptop at 6 p.m. instead of 9 p.m. Not because I asked. Because his daughter asked. And somehow, that mattered more. Here's what I learned about kids and language, because this is still an English practice video, remember? Kids learn English naturally because they're not afraid to sound stupid. Mia says I runned instead of I ran. Leo says foots instead of feet. And no one laughs at them. They just try again tomorrow. Adults? We're terrified. We wait until our sentence is perfect. We rehearse in our heads. We worry about accents and grammar and whether we're using the right preposition. And while we're waiting, we miss the moment. My kids taught me to stop waiting. To say the wrong thing. To laugh at myself. To try again. So here's my challenge to you. Watch how a child learns English. They don't study. They don't memorize. They listen. They repeat. They make mistakes. They get corrected gently. And they keep going. You can do that too. Especially with the people you love. Tonight, ask your kid, or a friend, or even yourself, one simple question in English. What made you laugh today? Don't worry about perfect grammar. Just ask. And then listen. That's how I learned to laugh again. Not from a textbook. From a 7-year-old who asked an uncomfortable question and a 4-year-old who thought a cracked banana was the end of the world. Our kids didn't fix our marriage. We fixed our marriage. But they were the ones who handed us the tools. A question here. A laugh there. A tiny human saying, I don't want a sad daddy. If you have kids, let them be your bridge too. If you don't, find your own Mia or Leo. A niece. A nephew. A neighbor's child. Anyone who hasn't learned to pretend yet. Because pretending is the enemy. And children are terrible at pretending. That's their superpower. And honestly, that's yours too, if you let it be. When I almost gave up on English, and let me tell you about the day I stopped trying. Not the dramatic I'm leaving forever kind of stopping. The quiet kind. The kind where you just let go. You stop correcting your mistakes. You stop asking questions. You stop hoping things will get better. You just exist. Like a plant that's still green but hasn't grown in months. This happened about 2 years into our fixing things journey. Yes, even after the bathroom floor, after the checking questions, after the kids became our bridge, I still almost quit. And here's the embarrassing part. I almost quit 2 things at the same time, learning English and my marriage. Because in my head, they had become the same problem. Let me explain. I moved to the US as an adult. My English was fine. Not great. Fine. I could order coffee. I could talk to teachers at parent-teacher conferences. I could understand maybe 80% of what people said. But that missing 20%? It was killing me. The missing 20% was the jokes I didn't get. The sarcasm that flew over my head. The fast talk at Dee's startup parties where everyone laughed and I smiled like a confused bobblehead. The moments when I wanted to say something deep or funny or smart, and instead said something boring or wrong or just nothing. Every day, I felt a little smaller. Every conversation reminded me that English wasn't my first language. Not in a mean way. In a quiet, death by a thousand cuts way. And here's what my brain did with that feeling. It connected it to Dee. Because Dee is American. His English is perfect. He never stumbles. He never searches for a word. He just talks. Effortlessly. And every time he did, I felt a tiny sting. Not because he was showing off. Because I was comparing. He belongs here. I don't. He can say anything. I can't. He's comfortable. I'm always performing. I never told him this. I was too ashamed. So instead, I stopped trying to improve. I stopped watching English videos. I stopped reading books in English. I stopped trying to say funny things at dinner. I just spoke less. And the less I spoke, the more Dee filled the silence. And the more he filled the silence, the more invisible I felt. It was a spiral. A slow, quiet, ugly spiral. One night, after the kids were in bed, Dee asked me one of our check-in questions. What's one emotion you felt today that you didn't expect? I said, nothing. He looked at me. Nothing? You felt nothing all day? I don't want to talk about it. He didn't push. That was our rule. No pushing. But his face, I'll never forget his face. It was confused, worried, and a little bit hurt. I went to sleep. He stayed up. The space between us on the bed felt like the Grand Canyon. The next morning, I woke up and made a decision. Not a good one. A decision to quit. Quit English. Quit trying to be better. Quit the check-ins. Quit hoping that Dee and I would ever feel like a real team. I didn't say this out loud. I just stopped. For 2 weeks, I spoke the minimum. Yes. No. Okay. Fine. I stopped our nightly questions. When Dee asked, I said I'm tired. Which was true. I was tired of trying. Then one evening, I was folding laundry, again, and I heard Mia say to Dee in the other room, "Is Mama broken?" Dee said, "No, sweetie. Mama is just resting." But I heard the truth in his voice. He didn't know what was happening. And for the first time, I felt guilty. Not sad. Guilty. Because I was doing to my family what I was afraid they were doing to me. I was disappearing. That night, I finally talked. Not perfectly. Not fluently. I cried through half of it. But I said the words I had been hiding. I feel stupid when I speak English. Not because of you. Because of me. I hear myself make mistakes and I want to disappear. So I stopped trying. I stopped trying with English. And I stopped trying with us. I'm sorry. Dee listened. Then he said something I will never forget. Lynn, do you know how many English mistakes I make every day? 0. Because it's my first language. That's not a flex. That's just luck. You speak 2 languages. I speak 1. You're actually smarter than me. You just don't feel like it. I laughed through my tears. That's not how it works. Yes, it is. You're learning a whole other way to think. And you're doing it while raising 2 kids and dealing with my startup anxiety. Give yourself a break. Then he said, what if we practice together? Not you practicing for me. Both of us. I'll learn Vietnamese. You keep learning English. And we'll both be bad together. He didn't learn Vietnamese. He learned maybe 10 words. But that's not the point. The point was, he offered to be bad with me. And that changed everything. Because the real enemy wasn't my bad English. The real enemy was the loneliness of learning alone. The feeling that everyone else was fluent and I was the only one struggling. Here's the science. Your brain has a region called the insula. It processes both physical pain and social rejection. They use the same neural real estate. So when you feel embarrassed about your English, when you feel like you don't belong, your brain literally hurts. And what do humans do when something hurts? We avoid it. That's why I quit. Not because I was lazy. Because my brain was trying to protect me from pain. But avoidance doesn't fix pain. It just postpones it. What fixed it was Dee saying, I'll be bad with you. Suddenly, I wasn't alone. And when you're not alone, your brain stops sounding the alarm. You can breathe. You can try. You can make mistakes without wanting to disappear. So here's what I want you to take from this, whether you're learning English or saving a relationship or both. Don't learn alone. Find someone who will be bad with you. A partner. A friend. An online community. Someone who says I don't know either, let's figure it out. Because the opposite of quitting isn't trying harder. It's trying together. After that night, I didn't magically become fluent. I still make mistakes. I still search for words. Last week, I told a cashier I want to return this because it's too spicy about a pair of shoes. She looked very confused. But I laughed. Out loud. In English. And then I corrected myself. And the world didn't end. That's progress. Not perfect. Just not quitting. And that's the difference between a relationship that falls apart and one that grows. Not the absence of problems. The presence of someone who says, I'll be bad with you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a pair of non-spicy shoes to return. The different dreams list. You know that feeling when you're about to do something scary, and your whole body tries to talk you out of it? Your stomach does a flip. Your palms get sweaty. Your brain helpfully suggests, hey, maybe just take a nap instead? That was me on a Friday night. Dee and I were sitting at the kitchen table. The kids were asleep. The dishwasher was humming its happy little song. And in front of us was a blank piece of paper. Not just any paper. The paper where we were going to write down our individual dreams. All of them. The big ones. The small ones. The embarrassing ones. The ones we had never said out loud. Why? Because we had realized something painful. For years, we had been guessing each other's dreams. And we were wrong. Completely wrong. I thought Dee's dream was to become a tech millionaire. He thought my dream was to become a famous writer. But those were just the surface-level titles. We had never actually asked, what do you really want? Not the job title. The feeling. So that Friday night, we made a rule. Write down everything. No judgment. No, that's stupid. No, that's impossible. Just write. Dee went first. He stared at the paper like it might bite him. Then he started writing. Slowly at first. Then faster. He filled half a page. I watched his face change as he wrote. It went from nervous to serious to peaceful. Like he was finally letting something out of a cage. Then it was my turn. I wrote. And wrote. Things I hadn't admitted to myself. Let me share a few. Dee's list included. Build something that helps people, not just makes money. Wake up without feeling guilty about not working. Take the kids to Japan to see sumo wrestling. I didn't know he cared about sumo wrestling. He doesn't. He just thinks the kids would laugh at the big guys in diapers. Valid. Have one day a week where no one asks him for anything. Learn to cook one dish really well. Just one. My list included. Finish a story and feel proud of it, even if no one reads it. Have a conversation in English where I don't feel like an imposter. Go on a walk with Dee where we don't talk about money or chores or the kids. Teach Mia to love reading the way I do. Stay in one place long enough to grow roots. When we finished, we traded papers. And then we laughed. Not a mean laugh. A relieved laugh. Because here's what we discovered. About 80% of our dreams were completely different. He wanted sumo wrestling. I wanted quiet walks. He wanted one day of nothing. I wanted one conversation where I felt fluent. None of those matched. But 20% were exactly the same. The 20% was, we both want the kids to be happy. We both want to feel like we're enough. We both want to stop being so scared all the time. That's it. 20%. Not 50. Not 80. 20. And for some reason, that small percentage felt huge. Because for years, we had been fighting the 80%. We had been trying to force ourselves to want the same career, the same hobbies, the same idea of fun. And we failed. Because you can't force someone to like sumo wrestling if they don't. But here's the shift. We stopped trying to change the 80%. We started protecting the 20%. The 20% became our home base. Our non-negotiable. No matter how different our days were, we would come back to those three things: the kids, feeling enough, and being less scared. Suddenly, the pressure disappeared. Dee didn't need me to love his startup. He just needed me to love him while he did it. I didn't need him to read my stories. I just needed him to say, "Tell me about it," once in a while. The 20% was small enough to hold. And big enough to matter. This idea isn't new, by the way. Psychologists call it shared goals or common ground. There's a famous study by John Gottman. He's the guy who can predict divorce with 94% accuracy just by watching a couple fight for 15 minutes. Scary, right? But here's what he found. The couples who stay together aren't the ones who agree on everything. They're the ones who have a shared meaning system. A small set of values and dreams that they both protect. Not big dreams. Small ones. Like, we both want Friday night pizza to be sacred. Or, we both want to laugh at least once a day. Or we both want our kids to feel safe. That's it. That's the glue. So after that Friday night, Dee and I made a new rule. Every month, we would look at our lists again. Not to change the 80%. To check on the 20%. To ask, is our shared ground still solid? And if it wasn't, we would fix that first. Before the dishes. Before the startup. Before the writing. The 20% comes first. You know what happened when we started doing this? The fights got shorter. Not because we stopped disagreeing. Because we had a place to come back to. When we argued about money or time or who left the milk out again, we could pause and say, okay, but are we still good on the 20%? And most of the time, the answer was yes. And the yes made the rest feel smaller. I'm not saying this is easy. Some months, the 20% felt shaky. Like when Dee worked late for 2 weeks straight and I felt like a single parent. We had to renegotiate. The kids are still our shared dream. But I need help. Can we adjust? And he did. Not perfectly. But he tried. Here's what I want you to take from this, whether you're in a relationship or not. Stop obsessing over your differences. They will always be there. He likes action movies. She likes documentaries. You love mornings. They love nights. That's fine. That's the 80%. Let it be different. Find your 20%. The things you both care about. Even if it's just one thing. Protect that thing like a dragon protects its gold. Build your life around that small, solid ground. For us, the 20% became 3 questions we ask every Sunday night. 1. Did the kids feel loved this week? 2. Did we both feel seen? 3. What's one small way we can be less scared this week? That's our 20%. 3 questions. Takes 10 minutes. And every time we answer them, I remember why we're still here. Not because we're the same. Because in the ways that matter, we're pointing the same direction. Different dreams. Same direction. That's not a compromise. That's a choice. And we make it every single day. How we learned without learning. Let me tell you about the most effective English lesson I never took. It didn't happen in a classroom. There were no textbooks, no flashcards, no apps that send you passive-aggressive notifications at 10 p.m. saying you missed your daily goal. None of that. It happened in my kitchen, while I was burning toast. It happened in my living room, while my kids fought over a purple crayon. It happened in my text messages, where Dee and I sent each other the most grammatically ridiculous sentences you've ever seen. And here's the crazy part. That's when my English actually improved. Not when I was trying. When I stopped trying so hard. Let me back up. After the night I almost gave up on English in us, Dee and I made a deal. A weird deal. He said, stop studying. Just live. And I'll live with you. In English. Bad English. Good English. Any English. Just don't stop talking to me. So I did. I stopped opening my grammar app. I stopped watching 10 ways to sound like a native speaker videos that made me feel like a fraud. I stopped rehearsing sentences in my head before saying them out loud. And instead, I started doing 3 stupidly simple things. Thing 1, podcasts while burning dinner. Every evening, around 5 p.m., I cook. Well, cook is a strong word. I heat things. Sometimes I chop. Occasionally I set off the smoke alarm. That's my signature move. While I do this, I put on a podcast. Not an English learning podcast. Those are fine, but they feel like homework. I put on a regular podcast. About true crime. About parenting fails. About why squirrels are secretly geniuses. Whatever makes me laugh or curious. I don't try to understand every word. I don't pause and rewind. I just let the English wash over me like background music. The sound of real people talking fast, using slang, interrupting each other, saying and like and you know what I mean? At first, I understood maybe 40%. But here's the secret, your brain is a lazy genius. If you stop demanding that it understand everything, it starts relaxing. And when it relaxes, it starts recognizing patterns. Words that repeat. Phrases that come up again and again. The rhythm of natural speech. After 3 months of burning dinner and listening to a comedy podcast about 2 friends who hate the same reality TV show, I realized something. I was laughing at the jokes. Not all of them. But some. Without subtitles. Without rewinding. That's not studying. That's just living with sound. Thing 2, reading comic books with a 4-year-old. Leo, my dinosaur-obsessed son, can't read yet. But he loves comic books. The kind with big pictures and short sentences. Cat is sad. Dog runs fast. Boom. Crash. Pow. Every night, we read one together. I read the words out loud. He points at the pictures and makes explosion sounds. And here's what I noticed, I never feel embarrassed reading to him. Because he doesn't care if my accent is weird. He doesn't correct my prepositions. He just wants to know why the cat is sad. So I started reading with more expression. More drama. The cat is so sad. Leo laughs. I laugh. And somehow, without trying, I learned sentence rhythm. Intonation. The music of English. Then I started reading his comic books alone. By myself. With no one watching. I'd whisper the words like a weirdo. Boom. Crash. Pow. And my mouth learned new shapes. New sounds. You want to improve your speaking? Read something simple out loud. Not a news article about economics. A children's book. A comic. A recipe. Something with pictures. Something that doesn't make you feel stupid. Because here's the truth, the best English practice is the practice you'll actually do. And you'll actually do the stuff that doesn't feel like practice. Thing 3, texting like a grammatical disaster. This one is my favorite. Dee and I have a text conversation that is almost 10,000 messages long. And in the beginning, I was terrified of texting him in English. What if I used the wrong tense? What if he laughed? So I asked him, what if we text each other on purpose wrong? Like, we make mistakes on purpose? For fun? He replied, sound good to me. Let's do it. He wrote sound instead of sounds on purpose. It took me a second. Then I laughed. We made a game. Whoever sends a perfectly correct sentence loses. We try to write the most creatively incorrect messages possible. Things like, yesterday I go to store and buy the milk. The milk was very happy. I drinked it. Now I am milk. Is that terrible English? Yes. But here's the magic. We're playing with the language. We're not afraid of it. And when you're not afraid, your brain opens up. You start noticing why it's wrong. Buyed should be bought. Drinked should be drank. But you only notice that because you're having fun. After a few months, I accidentally started texting correctly. Not because I was trying. Because my brain had seen the wrong version so many times that the right version started to feel more natural. Dee caught me once. I wrote, I bought avocados today. He replied, boring. Too correct. You lose. Also, why so many avocados? That's how I learned. Not from fear. From fun. Now, I'm not saying you should never study grammar. Grammar is useful. Like salt. A little makes food better. Too much ruins the dish. Most English learners are drowning in salt. Here's what the science says. Stephen Krashen, a famous linguist, has a theory called comprehensible input. The idea is simple. You learn a language not by studying rules, but by understanding messages. By reading and listening to things that are interesting to you and just a little bit above your level. Not way above. Just a little. That's what podcasts are. That's what comic books are. That's what silly text messages are. Input that you actually want to understand. And here's the part nobody tells you. You also need output. Speaking. Writing. But output without fear. Output where mistakes are allowed. Celebrated even. That's why our text game worked. That's why reading to Leo worked. That's why listening to podcasts while burning dinner worked. No pressure. No judgment. Just living. So here's my challenge to you. For 1 week, stop studying. Stop memorizing. Instead, do 3 things. 1. Put on a podcast while you do something boring. Dishes. Laundry. Waiting for the bus. Don't try to understand everything. Just let it play. 2. Read something for a child out loud. A picture book. A comic. A menu. Use drama. Use silly voices. Record yourself if you're brave. 3. Text someone in English. But here's the rule, you have to make at least 3 mistakes on purpose. And if they correct you, you win. Because that means they're paying attention. That's how I learned without learning. Not faster. Not perfectly. But joyfully. And joyful learning sticks. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to go burn dinner. The smoke alarm is my timer. What science says about growing together. Let me tell you something strange. After Dee and I started fixing things, I became obsessed with one question. Not, do we love each other? I already knew the answer to that. The question was, what is actually happening inside our brains when we grow together? Or apart? So I did what any reasonable person would do. I fell down a Google rabbit hole at 2 a.m. And what I found changed how I see every single argument, every silent dinner, every moment of connection. Buckle up. I'm about to make you love science. First, let's talk about something called neural synchrony. Fancy words, simple idea. When 2 people have a deep conversation, when they really listen to each other, their brain waves actually start to sync up. Literally. Researchers have put couples in brain scanners and watched their neurons fire in the same pattern at the same time. It's like a duet. But inside your skull. Here's the crazy part. This synchrony doesn't happen when you're just talking. It happens when you're truly listening. When you're curious. When you're not preparing your rebuttal while the other person is still speaking. Remember our check-in questions? What emotion did you feel today? When Dee answers and I actually listen, not scroll, not think about my answer, our brains dance together. That's not poetry. That's neuroscience. And what breaks synchrony? Assumption. Distraction. Silence that isn't peaceful but cold. When you stop being curious, your brain waves go solo. And 2 people playing different songs can't stay in the same band for long. Second science nugget, the negativity bias. Your brain is wired to remember bad things more than good things. It's an evolutionary thing. Your ancestors who remembered where the tiger was lived longer than the ones who forgot. But in a relationship, this bias is a disaster. 1 criticism needs 5 compliments to be forgotten. 5. That's the ratio. 1 snarky comment about the dishes erases a week of kindness. Your brain is not fair. It's a drama queen. This explained so much. Dee would say one tired thing, why didn't you take out the trash? And I would spiral. He doesn't appreciate me. He thinks I'm lazy. We're falling apart. Meanwhile, he had already forgotten he said it. But my negativity bias was replaying it on a loop. The fix? You can't turn off the bias. But you can flood your brain with so many small positive moments that the negative ones get buried. That's why our 3 daily questions work. They force tiny deposits into the love bank. A thank you for making coffee. I felt proud of you today. Small. Frequent. Like brushing your teeth, but for your marriage. Third, the concept of bids for connection. This is from John Gottman, the marriage guru I mentioned before. A bid is any small attempt to get your partner's attention. Hey, look at that bird. Listen to this funny sound. Can you believe what happened on my commute? You can either turn toward the bid or turn away. Turn toward, look at the bird. Turn away, keep scrolling your phone. Couples who stay together turn toward each other's bids 86% of the time. Couples who divorce turn toward only 33% of the time. 86%. That's the magic number. Here's what I realized. I was missing Dee's bids all the time. He'd say this sunset is pretty and I'd say aha without looking up. He was reaching for me with a tiny rope. And I was pretending I didn't see it. After I learned about bids, I started noticing them everywhere. A text with a random emoji. A hand on my shoulder while I washed dishes. A how was your day that wasn't small talk, it was a rope. Now I try to catch every single one. Even when I'm tired. Even when I don't feel like it. Because turning toward a bid takes 2 seconds. Turning away takes 2 seconds too. But one builds a bridge. The other burns it. Fourth, the language acquisition connection. Stay with me. This is where science meets English practice. Learning a new language and saving a relationship use the same muscle. What muscle? The muscle of tolerance for uncertainty. When you speak English as a second language, you're constantly uncomfortable. You don't know if you're saying it right. You might be misunderstood. Your brain wants certainty. But certainty doesn't exist in language learning. Same thing in relationships. You don't know if your partner will respond well. You don't know if sharing your fear will bring you closer or start a fight. Certainty is a fantasy. The people who succeed at both language and love are the ones who can sit in the discomfort. Who can say, I don't know the right word or I'm scared to tell you this and stay anyway. My English improved when I stopped demanding perfection. My marriage improved when I stopped demanding certainty. Same skill. Different context. Let me give you one more science fact, because I'm having too much fun. The Zeigarnik effect. Your brain remembers unfinished tasks more than completed ones. That's why a cliffhanger sticks with you. That's why unresolved arguments haunt you. If you go to bed angry, your brain will keep working on the problem all night. You'll wake up still angry. But if you resolve it, even a tiny resolution, like let's talk more tomorrow, your brain checks the box and lets it go. That's why we never go to bed without saying something kind. Even if the argument isn't solved. We say, I love you. I'm frustrated. But I love you. That tiny completion stops the Zeigarnik spiral. So here's what I've learned from all this science. Growing together isn't about having the same dreams. It's about syncing your brain waves through attention. Flooding the negativity bias with small positives. Catching every tiny bid. Tolerating uncertainty. And finishing each day with a kind word, even when it's hard. You don't need a PhD to do any of this. You just need to know that your brain is both the problem and the solution. It's wired to drift apart. But it's also wired to resync. Every time you ask, what did you feel today, you're not just talking. You're conducting an orchestra inside two skulls. Every time you turn toward a bid, you're strengthening a neural pathway. Every time you say I love you after a fight, you're tricking your brain into letting go of the grudge. Science didn't save my marriage. But science explained why the small things worked. And understanding why made me more likely to keep doing them. So tonight, try one small thing. Ask your partner, what's one bit I missed today? Don't get defensive. Just listen. Then tomorrow, try to catch one more. Your brain will thank you. And so will your heart. One morning last week. Let me paint you a picture. Not from the past. Not from the dark days. From last Tuesday. A completely ordinary, unspectacular, beautiful Tuesday. 6:15 a.m. The alarm screams. I slap it like it personally offended me. D groans. Leo has somehow migrated into our bed during the night and is now using my face as a pillow. Mia is standing at the door, already dressed, holding a stuffed octopus, asking, is it breakfast yet? This is not a movie. No one looks good. My hair is doing something I can only describe as aggressive. D has pillow marks on his cheek. The room smells like last night's leftover pizza. And yet, D reaches over and squeezes my hand. Not a romantic squeeze. A tired, I see you squeeze. His eyes are still closed. But his hand found mine. Automatically. Like breathing. I squeeze back. Then the chaos begins. Leo wakes up and immediately announces he is not a human today. He is a snake who eats only waffles. I don't argue. I make waffles in the shape of snakes. D laughs. His laugh is rusty. He hasn't had coffee yet. Mia asks if she can wear her octopus costume to school. It's October. Not Halloween. Just Tuesday. I say no. She says, you're ruining my life. I say, good, that's my job. She stomps off. D whispers, she gets the drama from you. I throw a pillow at him. He catches it. He's always been good at catching things. Except my hints. Those he missed for years. But that's okay. Now I don't drop hints. I say things. 6:45 a.m. Kitchen chaos. I'm packing lunches. D is making coffee. He makes his own coffee now. I taught him. Not because I'm lazy. Because he wanted to learn. He said, if you can learn English, I can learn to use a French press. He burned himself twice. He still burns himself sometimes. But his coffee is actually good now. Better than mine. I don't tell him that. His ego doesn't need it. Leo is eating his snake waffle. Mia is sulking in her room. D looks at me and says, I have a big meeting today. I'm nervous. He says it out loud. Without me asking. Without me dragging it out of him. Just. I'm nervous. That's new. That's the thing we built. The permission to be scared without being fixed. I say, tell me about the meeting. He talks while I pack applesauce pouches. Something about investors and pitch decks and numbers I don't understand. I don't understand any of it. But I listen. I nod. I say that sounds hard at the right moments. Because I learned that sounds hard is better than you'll be fine. He doesn't need cheerleading. He needs witnessing. 7:15 a.m. Mia comes out. She's not wearing the octopus costume. Progress. She eats her waffle in silence. Then she looks at Dee and says, "Daddy, are you still nervous?" He says, "A little." She says, "I get nervous before spelling tests. I pretend the letters are my friends." Maybe pretend your numbers are your friends. Dee looks at me. I look at Dee. We both try not to cry. A 7-year-old just gave better advice than most self-help books. He says, "That's actually really smart. I'll try that." Mia smiles. She has waffle crumbs on her chin. She's wearing mismatched socks. She's perfect. 7:45 a.m. School drop-off. The usual chaos. Mia runs in without looking back. Leo screams "I love you" at the top of his lungs because he thinks everyone in the parking lot needs to know. Dee and I stand by the car for a moment. Just a moment. The air is cold. Seattle cold. The wet kind that gets into your bones. He says, "Thank you." I say, "For what?" He says, "For staying." That's it. 2 words. For staying. Not for making breakfast. Not for listening to my meeting anxiety. Not for the snake waffles. Those are all nice. But for staying is the only one that matters. Because staying is the hardest part. Staying when you're tired. Staying when you're scared. Staying when different dreams feel like different planets. I stayed. He stayed. We stayed. 8:15 a.m. I'm back home. The house is quiet. Leo is at preschool. Dee is at work. Mia is at school. And I'm alone. Not lonely. Alone. There's a difference. I sit at the kitchen table. The same table where we wrote our dream lists. The same table where we had silent dinners that almost broke us. The same table where we learned to ask, "What emotion did you feel today?" I open my laptop. I start writing. Not this video. Something else. A story about a woman who plants sunflowers in her front yard. The sunflowers are not the point. The point is that she keeps planting them. Even when the first batch dies. Even when the neighbors think she's strange. Even when she forgets why she started. That's me. That's you. That's all of us who are learning something hard. Language. Love. How to stay. I write for an hour. It's not good. But it's written. And tomorrow I'll write again. Because that's what growing looks like. Not a masterpiece. A daily practice. 10:30 a.m. Dee texts me. He never used to text during the day. Now he does. It's a photo of his coffee cup. With a caption, "My numbers are being very friendly today. Thanks to Mia." I reply, "Tell them I said hi." He sends a thumbs up. Then 3 seconds later, actually, the numbers said hi back. They think your English is getting better. I laugh out loud. In the quiet kitchen. By myself. Laughing at a text from my husband who is pretending numbers can talk. That's the morning. Unspectacular. Beautiful. No grand gestures. No dramatic declarations. No perfect grammar. Just 2 people who used to be strangers in the same house, now finding each other between the chaos. A hand squeeze at 6:15 a.m. A confession of nerves over applesauce pouches. A 7-year-old's wisdom. A text about friendly numbers. This is what growing together looks like. Not a destination. Not a finish line. 1,000 tiny mornings. 1,000 small choices to turn toward each other instead of away. Last Tuesday was not special. But it was everything. Because here's the truth I've learned, the truth that took me years of silence, tears, bathroom floors, and almost quitting. You don't need to have the same dreams. You just need to share the same mornings. And every morning, you wake up and choose again. The same direction. Not because it's easy. Because it's worth it. The same direction isn't a destination. So here we are. The end of the story. Or, as I like to think of it, the beginning of everything else. Remember the question that started all of this? Can two people grow without losing each other? I've thought about that question every single day for the past 4 years. On bathroom floors. At silent dinner tables. During morning chaos with a snake waffle-eating toddler. And here's what I finally figured out. The question itself is wrong. Not bad. Just wrong. Because growing without losing each other sounds like a tightrope walk. Like one wrong move and you fall. Like you have to be perfectly balanced, perfectly aligned, perfectly the same. But that's not how real life works. Real life is messy. Real growth is lopsided. Some years, D grows faster. His startup takes off. He's busy, distracted, stretched thin. Some years, I grow faster. I find my voice in English. I write something I'm proud of. I need space to create. If we tried to grow at the same speed, in the same direction, all the time, we would have killed each other. Or worse, we would have killed ourselves trying. The real question isn't can we grow without losing each other? The real question is, can we hold on loosely enough that growing doesn't feel like breaking? Let me explain. When I stopped demanding that D share my exact dreams, something shifted. I stopped seeing his different dreams as a threat. I started seeing them as his. Just his. Not a rejection of mine. Not a competition. Just the beautiful, annoying, confusing reality of loving someone who isn't you. Here's what I've learned after all those check-ins, all those science rabbit holes, all those burned dinners and silly text messages. Growing together doesn't mean growing into the same person. It means growing in the same direction of care. Our direction of care is simple. We care about the kids feeling safe. We care about each other feeling seen. We care about laughing at least once a day, even if the joke is terrible. That's it. That's the compass. Everything else? Different speeds. Different paths. Different dreams. All allowed. D still wants to build a startup. Some days he wants to quit. I still want to write stories. Some days I stare at a blank page and feel like a fraud. We still disagree about money, about screen time, about whether a hot dog is a sandwich, it's not, and I will die on this hill. But underneath all that noise, the compass still points the same way. Every single night, before we sleep, we ask, did we both feel like we mattered today? If yes, good night. If no, we talk. Not to fix. To witness. That's the secret. And it's so simple that it's almost embarrassing. You want to grow without losing each other? Stop trying to control each other's growth. Start paying attention to each other's existence. The small, boring, beautiful existence. The way they sigh before coffee. The way they say I'm fine when they're not. The way they laugh at their own jokes even when no one else does. That's not a destination. You don't arrive there. You live there. Every day. In the mess. Last night, Dee and I were doing our check-in. The kids were asleep. The house was quiet. I asked him, on a scale of 1 to 10, how connected did you feel to me today? He thought about it. Then he said, 7. But yesterday was a 9. And tomorrow might be a 5. I said, that's okay. And I meant it. Because 7 is not a failing grade. 7 is real. Some days were a 9. Some days were a 3. The number doesn't matter. What matters is that we're still asking. Still checking. Still showing up to the conversation. That's the same direction. Not a fixed point on a map. A daily decision to turn toward each other, even when you're tired, even when you're scared, even when you'd rather scroll on your phone. If you're watching this because you want to practice English, here's your final lesson. The best English you will ever speak is the English you use to connect. Not to impress. Not to sound native. To say I see you and I'm scared and tell me more. Those words don't require a big vocabulary. They require courage. And if you're watching this because you're in a relationship that feels like two different rivers pulling apart, here's your final lesson. Stop trying to merge the rivers. That's not how rivers work. Just make sure they flow into the same ocean. The ocean of we're both trying. Of we both matter. Of I'll stay even when it's hard. That ocean exists. I promise. I've been swimming in it for 4 years. Some days I doggy paddle. Some days I float. Some days I swallow a bunch of water and cough. But I'm still here. We're still here. Different dreams. Same direction. Not because we're perfect. Because we decided that losing each other was not an option. And every day, we make that decision again. At 6:15 a.m. with a hand squeeze. Over burnt coffee and snake waffles. In a text about friendly numbers. On a bathroom floor. At a silent dinner table that learned how to speak. You can do this too. Whatever language you speak. Whatever accent you carry. Whatever dream pulls you in a different direction. Just keep asking. Keep listening. Keep showing up. That's not a happy ending. That's a happy beginning. And the best part? You get to write the next chapter yourself. So that's our story. Different dreams, same direction. A husband who builds startups. A wife who writes stories. 2 kids who turned silence into laughter. A bathroom floor that became a classroom. But here's the part one didn't tell you. Last week, Dee came home with news. His startup got an offer. From another city. Across the country. And suddenly, the same direction looks like a moving target again. What will we do? Will we stay? Will we go? Will different dreams pull us apart one more time? I don't know yet. But I'll tell you. In the next video. Because this channel isn't about perfect endings. It's about real ones. Real struggles. Real English. Real growth. No filters. No fake grammar drills. Just life, spoken slowly, clearly, and honestly. Here's what I want you to do right now. Subscribe. Hit that bell. Because the next chapter of this story is coming. And you don't want to miss how we answer the same old question, can two people grow without losing each other? When the ground shifts again. Comment one word, direction. Tell me what your same direction is. A person? A dream? A daily habit? Let's practice English together in the comments. Watch this video one more time. But this time, repeat the sentences out loud. Pause. Mimic my voice. That's how real learning happens. Not by watching. By doing. Thank you for staying until the end. Thank you for letting my messy American life be your English practice. This isn't goodbye. This is see you in the next story. Because the best stories are the ones still being written. Subscribe. Stay curious. And keep growing in your own direction.